Welcome to another self-service video. In this video, we are going to look at how to create a service entry sheet from the supplier point of view. So a service order has already been created and sent to the supplier, and now the supplier has performed the service and ready to submit the service entry sheet on the Ariba network via a service order flip, and then submit the service entry sheet. And we will look at it also from the buyer system perspective when they receive it and how it looks in their system. An order has already been created in the buyer solution. It is a service order, $50,000 service line has already been created as a parent line for a 2-month period, start date and end date. And a planned child line has already been created for a project manager for 100 hours at $50 an hour. So the project manager has done the work, and now the supplier who has received this order on the network, you can see the order here. And again, here's the, they don't see the total of the 50,000 being available. That's hidden from the supplier, but they can see that there's a planned line that they can flip and invoice against. So they would start by clicking on Create Service Sheet. Now keep in mind, some buyers, some organizations may have an auto-gen SES feature turned on where this service sheet button will be grayed out, disabled. And what will happen is when the supplier creates the invoice and submit it, Ariba Network will park the invoice on the network, will create a service sheet automatically, auto-gen SES, and then send it for approval. But in this case, I'm not using the auto-gen feature. I'm just going to create the service sheet manually. So I clicked on that button. The flip from the SO has occurred. Everything has gotten copied over. So you can see the PO number. I can go ahead and just give it an arbitrary service sheet number. I can plug in the service date and end date. What I do is I'm going to click on next just to see all the required fields. So you can see now all the required fields have showed up. So I'm going to just fill them in. The approver, this could be this is a configuration whether you want to make it required or not. And this would be useful if you want the supplier to specify who the approver is, and then have the configuration on SES in buyer to route it to this person to approve. But you could make this optional, and then you could configure different routing on approval for this SES in the buying solution. So the line here has been flipped. If there were multiple lines, I could turn off which lines I don't want to invoice against. There's only one planned line, so I'm just going to leave it. The first field here is the part number. It's not available, hasn't been entered on the order. The description is a project manager. It's a service. I'm not going to invoice against all 100 hours. I'm just going to say that a quarter of the work has happened, 25 hours. So 25 hours, I will leave these other fields as they are. And again, there's parameters whether you want to make these editable and so on. And also end date and start date and end date. There's also a parameter if you want to specify the start date and end date on the header and have it cascade down to all the lines. There's a lot of configurations you can evaluate. So I'm going to click on update. Here we go. The 25-hour amount has been updated. The total. I'm going to click on next. Everything looks good, no errors, and I'm going to go ahead and submit it. It will take a few minutes for the SES to make it down to the to the buyer system. The supplier will not be able to invoice until this service entry sheet has been approved. So that's why you see the button is grayed out here until it's approved in the buyer solution. So we'll go ahead and now and look at the service sheet from the buyer solution. So hopefully it has been received by now. So I'll go ahead and open the order. And obviously notifications will be sent out to the required approvers. Yep, it looks like it's here. It's already received. So I'm going to open it. And we can see in the approval flow that the requester of the order requester must approve. So that's how it's configured. It also happens to be the name entered on the service entry sheet on the Ariba network by the supplier. So you can see here, this is the service sheet in the buyer solution. You can see you're getting a visual graph of how much has been submitted, has not been invoiced, and so on. So this is the first SES against this order. So I can go ahead and approve it. Okay. Of course, you can reject it. You can, so many different kinds of actions a user can take on this service sheet. I'll go ahead, now that it's been approved, you can see it's processed, and you can see again, still the invoice has not come in yet, because this is just step one from the supplier perspective of submitting the service sheet. So after this, the supplier can go ahead and create the invoice and have it come down to the buyer solution in order to finalize the invoicing piece for later on to receive the payment. The SES is in processed status. Let's go and look at the order, which should be in partially serviced status since the servicing has already started. And here it is. It's not completely serviced because we only did a quarter of it. So in this video, we showed you the created service order. We went ahead and created the service entry sheet on the Ariba network, and we looked at it in the buyer solution and approved it.